Hello world, Krista here with Books and Jams, and thanks for coming into my channel today. I am going to do a real quick book review for you because finally last week I hopped on the Burial Rites fan wagon. I'm going to call it a fan wagon because I loved it. Spoiler alert for the rest of this video, I really enjoyed this book. This book has been making the rounds on BookTube, as I'm sure you are very well aware. Most of you have probably already read it. This book was the Readalong, Books and Jams Readalong pick of the month for February. So I read this book this month along with a number of women who joined in the fun on my Goodreads group. I am pleased to say that I really liked it. I was super surprised. First of all, let me go back. This book is about Agnes, Magnus' daughter, who is the last person to be executed in Iceland. So it tells her story of the last few months of her life. So at the beginning of the book, she has already been sentenced. We already know she's sentenced to die. And she gets sent to live with a family, I guess in northern Iceland where she lives in the early 1800s. There were no jails, and the district commissioner wanted her to be executed in their area to make a point and be a lesson for others in the area. So he didn't want to send her away to have it happen in Copenhagen or in a larger city. He wanted it to happen right there in their area. So this book is about the final days, months of Agnes's life and her story and the family that she interacts with during those months. In listening to other people talk about this book, one of the main things they talk about is the writing, because it takes place in northern Iceland, which, as you can imagine, is cold and bleak and rather dreary. And that is so true. The writing expresses that landscape and that setting incredibly well. You really feel the bleakness, both in the story and in the setting. So Hannah Kent did a fantastic job of that. When people were describing it to me, as I watched videos on BookTube, I was very hesitant. I wasn't sure if I was going to connect with this. I'm both character and a plot-driven reader. I enjoy a fast-paced read, but I also like to really be able to connect with the characters. So, and if one of those two things is missing, I often don't connect with the book as a whole. So I was a little hesitant. I was very much hesitant, actually. Before I started reading this, I wasn't sure I was going to like it as much as everybody else. But I wanted to read it. I had found it at a thrift store for very cheap, or a library sale or something. I found it very cheaply and wanted to read it and was determined and was very pleasantly surprised that I did really get captivated by this story. There is no hope in this book. You know the ending. It's a historical fiction. We already know the ending. She is the last woman who was executed in Iceland. So all along the way, you understand that that's going to be the outcome. However, the way the story is told and the way we are introduced to Agnes, I really, in the midst of all of the hopelessness, both in the setting and in her telling her story and in people treating her horribly and in learning about her past and her childhood, there's so much hopelessness in this book. But I found myself holding on to that hope that things are going to change and get better for her. I wanted people to love her. I wanted Agnes to find the love and the dignity and the respect that she never seemed to get anywhere else in her life. I really fell in love with her character. She wasn't incredibly open. She wasn't incredibly warm. She wasn't any of the normal things that would draw me to somebody, but her story was very heartbreaking to me, and it was like a hard knock life for sure. She just got blow after blow after blow, and a lot of those things that happened to her were out of her control. Some things were under her control. Obviously, she made choices along the way that affected her life as well, but the hopelessness that runs throughout the book was not hopelessness that I was feeling. I was feeling so much hope for her. So I really was captivated by that contrast. I really liked the characters that were in this book. I didn't like them all. I liked how they were portrayed because they brought such emotion out in me. The district commissioner was a horrible person, power hungry, and just wanted to make a point and do things his own way, didn't care for the finding out the whole truth, or yeah, he just wanted to do things his way. Nathan, one of the men who was murdered, was a horrible, horrible person, just taking advantage of everybody around him and miserable, and how people continued to give him respect and friendship and even love blew my mind, because he was a rotten person. I loved the change in the family that she goes to live with. Just the way that they develop over the story was really, really cool. I liked seeing the relationships that got built there. The Reverend who comes to kind of help her along the way, I really liked him as well. I thought for a minute there it got a little bit too much. He became very emotionally invested in Agnes and in her story. And I'm glad that it didn't fully turn into a romantic feelings, but there was a touch of that, and I was worried it was going to turn more. Actually, I shouldn't probably say that. But I liked the Reverend and the way that he was determined. He was very young, and he was determined to do his job well. I don't know, I just really liked the characters in the story. I loved Hannah Kent's writing. I especially liked the writing at the beginning, but I think as it got going and I got more into the story and captivated by the story of what was going on, I didn't notice the writing as much because I was more drawn in emotionally to the story. So I didn't notice quotes and pull out things along the way. I was very pleasantly surprised to like this book. That's it for today. Please chat down in the comments about Burial Rites or your thoughts on this book, if you've read it or if you're interested in reading it or not. I would love to carry on the conversation down below. And I hope that you're having a great day, and I'll be talking to you soon. Bye!